LEX18 presents a podcast with hot takes, hot topics, with your hosts, Megan Mannering and Evelyn Schultz. This is Hot Mic.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Hot Mic. I am Megan Mannering, but you will notice my partner in crime, my co-host Evelyn Schultz, is not here. She's feeling a little under the weather, but have no fear, she will be back next week. And we have a phenomenal guest who's joining us today, your Miss Kentucky, Ariana Rodriguez. It's a fun name, right?
It is.
Welcome to the pod. I'm so excited, Ariana.
Thank you.
Has it been just a whirlwind the last couple months?
It has. Every day is different, but you learn something each and every day, so you never miss a beat as Miss Kentucky.
Are you tired all the time?
You know, I was earlier this week, but yesterday I actually got a day off, which is rare for Miss Kentucky. But
Okay.
I got to spend the day laying in my bed and reading, and that's all I did. Watching
Sometimes you
YouTube.
need to rot.
Yes.
It's so
Just
important.
for one day, and we're back at it today.
You
so
gotta
I got
hit
my
reset.
rest. Yes.
Okay. So you were crowned Miss Kentucky in June, and then you placed 11th for Miss America in September, which is phenomenal. That was history making, right?
Yes. So I made top 11. They don't tell you which place you get, so I could have been 6th through 11th. My family keeps telling me, you got 6th, you got 6th.
That's what I would say, girl.
But yes, I made top 11, and I was the first former foster youth to ever do so in all of Miss America history.
Have you been able to take a beat and kind of pat yourself on the back and appreciate what you've accomplished?
Yeah, before I won Miss Kentucky, I kind of downplayed the importance of self-care, but really after winning Miss Kentucky and after doing well at Miss America, I was like, okay, you've earned this. Take a little break. So I was able to get some massages booked. My sister and I are going on a trip next month, and it's not all fun. We're doing some appearances while we're traveling the East Coast, but I'm really excited for that, and I'll be able to rest a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm thrilled to get into your backstory, your current story, and where your story is headed. That was kind of good. We might have to put that in the maybe in the headline or something. So, Ariana, you had kind of a non-traditional introduction into pageant life. Yeah. So tell me, where does your story begin? Where were you raised? What was your upbringing like?
Yeah, so I grew up in kinship and foster care. I entered kinship care first when I was 5 years old, and I stayed in kinship care until I was about 12. After that, I spent about 2 years in foster care. I only had one foster family, but during my time in kinship care, I had about 20 different placements. So kinship care is like foster care, but you're placed with someone who you have some kind of familial or family friend connection. And so I went through a lot of kinship care homes and then one foster home. And I exited foster care when I was 14 and went back to my biological mom. I was reunified. And the reason that I had went into foster care was because my mom was addicted to methamphetamine. But after I went through the foster care system, she got clean. And although she was clean, she was still facing a lot of other struggles. She was homeless at the time. And CPS workers didn't check in to make sure that she had a stable home for us to move back in. And so when I moved back in with my mom, we were placed with her, and she was living out of an abandoned house. And so we lived out of an abandoned house for about a year and a half before I moved out on my own. And I lived out of my car and with friends the last 2 years of high school. And then during my senior year of high school, I realized that I really wanted to go to college. I've always been very, very interested in learning, and I thought that I had gotten a full ride since I had spent time in foster care. But my senior year of high school, I found out that I exited foster care 26 days too early to receive any financial aid. And so even though I had spent time in kinship care and foster care for the majority of my life, about 14 years, and then spent 2 years as a homeless teenager, I was getting no financial support for college at all. And so I realized that I had to, find another way to go to college if I wanted to get out of the circumstances that I was in. And so I looked up talent competitions. I didn't know the pageant that I was going into was a pageant. I didn't
You
really
thought it was a talent competition.
Yes, and that's my bad. I should have read the fine details below the website that I was looking at. But yeah, I looked up talent competitions and I found the My Old Kentucky Home Organization, which is a preliminary competition to Miss Kentucky. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this, because I thought that it was very talent based. I knew that there was like a little bit of pageantry involved, but I was like, I'll be up there for like 2 seconds. Obviously, as Miss Kentucky, I know that there's so much more than just like singing and going out in a pretty dress. So I walk in, I have no clothes that fit me. I remember vividly people coming up to me after and just saying like, let's get you in something else, because that's how bad the wardrobe was. And so I went up there, I entered into the pageant, because on the website, after I was like, no, I'm not doing pageants, I scrolled down and I saw that there was $20,000 of scholarship money rewarded to Miss Kentucky. And I was like, fine, I'll do a pageant.
That's some good incentive for someone who has big goals, right?
It is. And so I signed up. I put all of the savings that I had currently into competing, because pageants are quite expensive. And I had about $800, $900, maybe $1,000 saved up. And I put it all into, trying to get some vocal lessons, trying to get heels, because I'd never worn heels before, getting my hair done, buying makeup, because I never used to wear makeup at all. And so after I had bought everything, I'd pretty much spent all of my college savings to prepare for this, because I was just so sure that I was going to walk in and win.
You were betting on yourself.
Yes, I really was. Very on theme for the Derby State.
Love that.
But yes, I was betting on myself, and I put everything into it, and I lost. And I remember walking backstage just so defeated. And I was crying, and I tried to hide it from the other girls, because you want to be supportive. Even though it wasn't my time, it was their time, and I wanted to give them their moment. But I mean, I was devastated. And so I was crying backstage, and a director came up to me and she said, if you want to go to Miss Kentucky, we'll get you there. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I mean, I was just coming up with all the excuses in the world, because when you've put so much into something and it doesn't work out the way that you have planned in your head, I think all of us get a little insecure. We all just don't want to try something like that again. So it was very embarrassing, going up there and not having clothes that fit me, and just not having any idea what I was doing.
You're really putting yourself out there in a very open and vulnerable way, and you are spending a lot of money, and you're kind of in a world that you aren't familiar with, that had to have taken a lot of guts. And then, to walk away disappointed, I think a lot of people would probably walk away forever and say, I'm done, I gave it a go, but that's not what you did, right? No, it's not what I did. And the premise of pageants is that you're being judged. So the whole time I'm going up there, already with some kind of doubts. I didn't come from the world of pageantry. A lot of people who do pageants don't have to worry about a lot of the things that I had to worry about. And so I knew that I was stepping into a complete different world, and that I was being judged all while trying to navigate this new world. And so when she told me that initially, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I'll take my loss. I'll continue working. I was working 3 jobs in high school. It's like, I'm just going to continue working, and like, that'll be it. And she convinced me. She put a post out on Facebook asking people for donations. And Heather French Henry, which is actually Miss America 2000, she came over to that director. Her name is Kimberly Lyle. She came over to her house and brought her Miss America crown. I just remember her putting it on me and being like, you can do this. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just try one more. And so I won my second pageant and went to Miss Kentucky's teen that year and just fell in love with it. I think I had this previous misconception about pageants that everyone who did them was like spoiled. I'd never been in pageants, so the only kind of image that I had about pageantry was Miss Congeniality and toddlers and tiaras, and which is very skewed from real life. That's just a snippet of what it actually is.
It is. And I started competing regularly. I went to Miss Kentucky's teen that year, and I got top 12 and first runner-up in quality of life. And that's when I really realized that, doing pageants and specifically doing the community service involved in pageants could really change my life. I started a nonprofit called the Lucky Ones Foundation my senior year of high school whilst I was preparing for Miss Kentucky's teen. And I just fell in love with it. And I was like, even if pageants can be a part of this, but I really want to do this. And so I continued on. I went to Miss Kentucky last year. I didn't even make top 12 because I'd transitioned from teen to Miss, and it's a whole different ball game. I mean, you have to learn so much more because at the teen level, you're not competing for a job as much as you are at the Miss level.
Okay.
Miss Kentucky's teen is Miss Kentucky's teen, and that's a great title, but Miss Kentucky is also the spokesperson for the Department of Agriculture. So she's literally competing for a job to work for the state of Kentucky.
Right. Like signing on for
Yes,
a whole year.
A whole year of your life. And so it's a very big transition. And last year I was not prepared to take that role on. I walked away with no tangible evidence that I'd been there, but I walked away with so much more. I mean, during these competitions, you learn so much about yourself and about other people, and just there's so much growth that happens. I remember last year at Miss Kentucky, I was so sick. This might be a little bit TMI. But
Girl, let's go there.
I threw up,
Oh, no.
walked on stage, sang my talent, got off stage, and immediately threw up. Like, I was that sick.
Just a virus or something? Just a bug?
So, not to call Chapel out. Chapel, Miss Kentucky last year, she was sick on the first day.
Oh, no.
And everybody was telling me, stay away from Chapel because she was just sick. And me being a little 18-year-old girl, I was like, no, Chapel's so nice. I want to hang out with her because I was the youngest. And I just see all of these older girls competing. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so cool. And I was taking any moment that I could to talk to them.
Like, I don't care if I'm getting all the germs and
No.
the sneezes on me. Yeah.
This is like the epitome of like a role model. I mean, Chapel was so incredible. To say that I'm like the Miss Kentucky that goes after her is just crazy because I've been able to see her growth as well and just like how far she's come. But to get back on track, Chapel got me sick that year because I was just all over her, like hugging and just so excited to see her. And so I was sick the entire week. I think she got over it like the second day, and that's when I like started to get sick.
Began.
So I wasn't able to go to a lot of the practices, and I at one point the director of Miss Kentucky, Brian, he was like, I think you just need to go home. And I was like, no, please don't make me go home. Like, I begged him. I was like, I don't even need to win. I just need to be here. I put so much into this. Because at this point, when I was going to Miss America, I wanted it, but I didn't need it. Because when I was a senior in high school, when I was a freshman in college, I had no idea how I was going to accomplish everything that I wanted to accomplish. And then when I won Miss Kentucky, it was kind of different because I had the platform and the resources to be able to accomplish those things. But it was very different because whereas now, like, I want to do interviews like this, I want to do appearances. But back then it was kind of more of like desperation because I saw how much it could change my life. And I wanted it, but I needed it, if that makes sense.
Like you were saying, it wasn't your time before. Now it's kind of your time and you're ready to seize the moment in a way, would you say?
Definitely.
Wow. Your story is incredible. And I know it doesn't stop there because you've had a whirlwind. We'll get into all of that. But I think it's a story that needs to be heard because there are so many people who face the same challenges that you did, and they need to see a role model. They need to see someone who's come out of that stronger, and you're the perfect example. I want to go back to when you were a younger girl going through kinship care and foster care. How did you picture your future in those days? I mean, could you see a way out when you were in the thick of it?
I never really knew how I would accomplish all of my goals, but I just had this feeling that I would be successful. And that sounds kind of bad, kind of braggy, but I just always knew that I was going to be successful, and I don't really know how to describe it in any way other than that. I just had this feeling that if I put everything into accomplishing my goals, that I would eventually get out. I went through a lot of really dark times. I mean, living out of my car, it's scary being a 16-year-old and, not knowing when you're going to eat or where you're going to sleep that night and still worrying about, I have homework due at 8 o'clock in the morning and I have to come up with a new dance for color guard, because I was a color guard captain, of course, while all of this is happening. and there was just so much going on that I don't think I ever stopped to say, like, oh, no, this is not going to happen. Like, everything that I'm doing has to have a reason behind it. I didn't work this hard to stop here. And there were so many days where I did feel that the odds were set against me. But I just kept looking at myself in the mirror and just saying, you will not become another statistic. You'll get over this. And so, yeah, I guess I always had this feeling that I was going to be successful. I didn't know that it would look like this. Didn't know that I would be Miss Kentucky, especially not this young. I'm only 20, and I had just turned 20 when I won.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't expecting it to be this soon, but my timing is not God's timing. And
Ain't that the
I
truth?
can't complain how everything happened. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You've lived so much life in just 20 years. Also, you give like 30-year-old energy. You're so poised, which I'm sure is part of the pageant thing. You have to be, very on top of it all the time.
Thank you.
But I want to, real quick, we're going to watch a video. Kentucky Farm Bureau filmed you revisiting some of your old homes. It's a really, really powerful video that kind of chronicles your journey. So we're going to watch it. And for our listeners, you'll be able to hear Ariana kind of explaining where she is. So Hannah, let's go ahead and cue that video up.
This is the house that I lived after I was reunified with my mom after being in foster care. I remember walking down there and waiting for the bus stop because I was so embarrassed for people on the bus to see that I lived here. This is like where we would put the buckets typically when we needed water because we didn't have running water. We would heat the water up to purify it and then drink it, or we used to just dump it on each other. That was our bath. Slept in the living room, all three of us. We could only afford one mattress, so we were all piled up on this little queen full-size mattress, and we cooked in the kitchen. I mean, just like your average family, I guess, except we didn't have heat or water or air conditioning or electricity. So my mom was working in 12-hour shifts, and she still couldn't afford to find us a place with 3 kids. We moved in with one of her friends that lived in Nelson County, and so we stayed there for 2 years after this.
How does it feel to watch that back and kind of revisit some of those old homes?
It feels like 2 different people. I don't even feel like the same person as I was during those days because I've just learned so much and there's been so much growth just by taking on challenges that I never thought that I would take, like Miss Kentucky. It's just surreal, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I like what you say in this video, which I think is really surprising to some people. You consider yourself a lucky one. Yeah. I want you to kind of elaborate, what is the experience that maybe other kids have to go through in foster care and kinship care, and how is your experience in your mind better?
Well, I think the best way to explain this is by telling a story about my younger life. So when I was first placed in my foster home, I was crying. I had just been separated from my little sister, and as most youth in foster care know, you're not often told where you're going. You're in court one second, and you're sitting in one of the back rooms. You're not allowed to be in the courtroom hearing, the life-changing decisions that are being made about your life. You sit in a different room, and someone comes and gets you. I remember the lady that came and got us didn't even tell us her name. She just said, "Come with me." And so she has these fancy badges on, and of course, we're just kids. We listen to her. We go with her. I remember anytime we asked a question in the car on the way to the CPS office, she was just kind of like ignoring us, like acting as if we weren't there. And when you get to the CPS office, again, you have no idea what's going on. You're not told that you're going into foster care. You're not told anything. And you have to strip down to the most basic clothes so that they can inspect you for self-harm, so that they'll know what the foster parent needs to know when, you know, you're placed in a home with a stranger. Of course, they need to know, like, your health challenges. Sure. But they don't tell you that. They just say, take off your clothes. They don't tell you why. And so already there's been very dehumanizing experiences before we even get to the foster home. So I didn't get to say bye to my little sister. My brother was with me, but we had no idea where my sister was or if she would be safe or what was happening to her. And growing up in so many different kinship homes and being the eldest daughter, it was really my responsibility to look out for my younger siblings. And so while I was experiencing all of this trauma myself, I was worried about them and what they were going through too. So it was just a very dehumanizing experience, and I remember getting very overwhelmed. I had very bad anxiety when I was younger, so much so that I was in the hospital almost constantly. I mean, for my anxiety, it was really, really bad. And I remember I was just having a panic attack crying at the doorstep of my new foster home because I had no idea what was going on. And I remember my case manager, again, I don't even know her name, looked at me and she said, "You should be grateful. You're one of the lucky ones." And at first I was just so angry. I didn't know what she meant because I'd been through such terrible circumstances that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And it was just really hard to hear that I was one of the lucky ones. And then as that year and a half, 2 years went on of me being in foster care, I met other kids who were in foster care, and I started learning what the system was like and what it was like for other children. I remember one time my foster mom took me to a residential care facility, which is where children go when their foster parents can't take care of them if they go on vacation or if they need a break. And this specific residential facility was really used as punishment. If foster parents were having issues with the children, they would send them into respite care to get that break, but it wasn't a break for the children. I remember they had probably 6 kids in each room, and this is a small, like, trailer. They had probably 12 kids, and when you're there, it's not like, we visited because my foster mom just kept saying, you know, this is what your life could be like you need to act right, kind of using it as like a scare tactic. And I remember going and seeing the way that these young women were treated. I mean, many of them would tell us that they were raped or they were abused and that no one would listen to them, because after you've been to a certain number of homes, regardless of why you entered those homes, it could be something that's not your fault at all. Once you reach a certain number of homes that you've been to, you get placed on a high-risk list. And at that point, you're not placed with the best foster parents. You're placed with the ones who are used to dealing with high-risk kids or the bad kids. That's what you're told a lot of times. And so as my time went on in foster care, I realized that I was lucky. Although my experiences were very difficult, you know, I wasn't being physically abused. I wasn't being sexually assaulted. My life was very difficult, no doubt, but there were so many people who had it 10 times worse than I did. And I realized that I was one of the lucky ones. And that's why I started my nonprofit, because somebody had to change that, and it wasn't happening.
That's an incredible part of your story. And I just have to say, you know, you should never downplay what you've been through, because it's devastating. And I think these are stories that aren't shared in the media enough of, I mean, just kind of the horrors of going through this system and having those dehumanizing interactions and having the adults making decisions for you and moving from home to home, and the burden that you felt for your younger siblings. I mean, that is an incredible burden for a young person. You started this foundation, and what is your mission with that? What needs to change?
Yeah. So our 2 main goals are to amplify the voices of youth in foster care and educate the public about the issues that they face. So when I was in foster care, again, like 14 years of kinship in foster care, I wasn't really given a voice. And a lot of people, when they talk about foster care, they say that children in foster care don't have a voice, and that's not true. Everyone has a voice. We're just not permitted to use it when we're in foster care. And so really, we wrote very specifically in our bylaws, our goal is not to give kids a voice, it's to amplify the voice that they already have, to make sure that they have a space to tell their own story and that the adults in the room aren't telling it for them. So many years that I was in foster care, not once did anyone ask me how I felt. That just shouldn't be the case. We're making these life-changing decisions about kids. We should ask them how they feel about them. Even if we can't listen to every request that they have, just giving them that voice and that power to tell us what they want and what they need means more than anything. And then our second goal is to educate the public because, as you said, many people don't hear these stories. All people want to hear is the success stories like mine. But what we really need to pay attention to is the stories that didn't turn out like mine. That's what's most important. I could sit here and talk all day about how wearing this fancy crown and sash is amazing, but there are still kids at the end of the day who go hungry. There are still kids who are being raped and being sexually assaulted and being abused for something that they can't control. And I wanted to win Miss Kentucky, not so I could go around and tell my success story, but so I could raise awareness about those stories that people won't tell.
Well, you've been given this, you've earned this platform, and I mean, you're using it to the best of your ability, and that's a really remarkable thing.
Thank you.
I want to talk about your mom. What is your relationship like now? And do you think there are any misconceptions out there about parents whose children end up in the foster care system?
Yeah. A lot of people tend to think that my mom is a bad person, and she's not a bad person. We do not have the perfect relationship. I'll say that. There are so many days where I'm like, Mom, you're driving me crazy. But that's with anyone.
That's any mom and daughter, yeah.
Any mom and daughter. And she's had her own challenges, and I've never been in her shoes. So I am at no place able to say that what she did was or wasn't okay, or that it was or wasn't what she should have done, because I don't know. I've never lived her life. But I do know that my mom, even with her struggles, even with years of battling addiction, even with years of dealing with trauma from her childhood that she never got to recover from, she has always tried to be the best mom that she can be. And sure, there have been days where she has not been perfect, but that's with anyone. And so I want to give her the same grace that I would give to anyone else, because she's just a human. This is her first time being here, and this is her first time being a mom, and I'm the eldest daughter, so maybe I see that from a different perspective than my youngest sibling.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, all the peace and love to my mom, and she's doing so much better, and I'm so proud of her, so I couldn't ask for anything different.
That's awesome. What was her reaction to you earning the title of Miss Kentucky?
There's a video somewhere of her screaming. My mom couldn't afford to actually go to Miss Kentucky, unfortunately, but she was at home watching, and she's just, at first she's like, oh my gosh, she's gonna win, like before they even called my name. Of course, crazy pageant moms.
Right, right.
But she was like, oh my gosh, it's her, she's gonna win. And then when they called my name, she just starts bawling. And I remember visibly seeing like a difference in my mom and the way that she carried herself after I won. It was just, even though she didn't accomplish everything that she wanted to do in her career, my mom wanted to be a model. She went to modeling school when she was younger and dropped out because she had me. And I couldn't imagine, being 24 and having your whole life like right there, and then finding out that you have a child on the way and you have to put all those dreams on hold, because that was her way out of her situation. And I guess when she saw that I had accomplished everything that I wanted to, she saw that she could too. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter your circumstances. You have all the power in the world to control your future. Nobody else can take that from you. And I think she realized that when I won.
That's amazing. And we're going to play the moment that you won Miss Kentucky.
Ariana Rodriguez, march down!
So let's kind of transition into your story now. Hearing your name called Ariana Rodriguez, which we already said is like celeb status name, that photo that captures, I mean, you just look stunned. What was that moment like for you?
Just pure shock. I don't think it processed, honestly, for a few minutes, but it took me months for it to set in that I'm Miss Kentucky, and that's not like a dream. I remember, it's a series of people that come up to you. So the first person that came up to me was the spokesperson for Paul Miller Mazda of Lexington, and he handed me car keys. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a car, because I wasn't able to afford a car. Yeah. So I hadn't had one since high school, when I was living out of my car. And so when he handed me those, I was like, oh my gosh, my life has changed. And the director of Miss Kentucky comes up to me and he says, how does it feel to be $20,000 richer? And I was like, oh my gosh. And the Department of Agriculture I'm the spokesperson. The Department of Agriculture representative, her name is Bethany. She's my boss. I should know her official title. She comes up to me and she just says, I'm your new boss. And at that point, another round
so
of just
new car, new boss, $20,000. I mean, your whole world is literally changing like second by second.
Second by second. And I realized that everything that I had set out to do in the next year was gone. It was going to look completely different. And so a little bit of a backstory so that I can fully explain the stress that came after me winning, which I don't think I've ever spoke about on anything like this.
Okay. The mic is hot.
The mic is hot. So I got into a car accident my senior year of high school. It was the summer before my senior year, and it was really bad. I was with my friend and I was driving, and neither of us got hurt, but it was terrifying. And I totaled my car. We flipped 7 times down a hill. We hydroplaned and flipped. And so after that, I hadn't driven because I was just so scared that, I had practiced driving a lot. And that situation was just something out of my control. Mm-hmm. And so for years, I was so scared that something like that would happen again, that, I would just randomly hydroplane and not be able to control the car. I was very scared of putting other people at risk. So I just didn't want to be on the road at all. I was, again, just so terrified. It was a very bad wreck. The roof caved in enough to knock me out, but not kill me, which is just to describe like how close everything was.
I mean, like a brush of death, is what they say. Brush with death. You were that close.
And I was terrified. And so when they call my name as Miss Kentucky, of course, I'm like so excited. But in the back of my mind, I'm terrified because driving is a huge part of my job. I've driven 20,000 miles in the past 3 months. Wow. And I am on the road typically about 3 to 5 hours a day on a good day.
Yeah.
And so I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm Miss Kentucky. Like, my life changed. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm Miss Kentucky. Like, just fear. And I remember going backstage, and again, my connection with Chapel helped in this moment because I went and I told the director, I was like, you need to crown a new Miss Kentucky. Like, I don't know how to drive. Like, I can't do this. I don't know how to drive. And I was like, and it just, all of the realities of being Miss Kentucky hit me in that moment. And I was like, and I don't have anywhere to live for this year because I was supposed to be an RA, and Miss Kentucky is a full-time employee. I couldn't go to school this year, so that was my housing.
Wow.
I hadn't planned to win. I didn't think I was going to win. I mean, I'm only 20. I'd been in the Miss Kentucky competition for 2 years. This was my second year. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't expecting it at all. So all of these realities start hitting me. Mm-hmm. And I just remember going back to Chapel, and Chapel's so excited for me. I mean, if you watch the full video of me winning, you can see her jumping up and down when I won. But I mean, I was just so terrified for everything that lied ahead. And I went in there to the Miss Kentucky board. Everyone's like sitting on couches. And I sit down and I'm like, guys, you need to find someone else. I can't do it. I can't drive. I don't know where I'm going to live. And I just start like rambling. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to live. And like no words are making sense at this point. Mind you, I just got the crown put on my head 2 minutes ago. I did not give myself a second to
reality
enjoy
is
it.
already setting in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to explain the situation. And they're like, well, would you be willing to learn how to drive? And I was like, yes. And they were like, then why are you crying?
Oh, good girl.
Yeah. And so they put me in driving lessons the next day. But I remember going back there to chapel and her asking me, like, you must be so excited. And me being, I just start bawling. I start crying my eyes out. I'm like, chapel, I can't do this. Hyperventilating to the point where she was like, you have to go out and give a speech in like a minute.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody was like, the whole thing was delayed a little bit because I was backstage freaking out. Like I was just so terrified. And she's just trying to calm me down. When I went out for my speech, I don't think anything made sense because I was just in pure shock.
You had about 1,000 things going on in your mind, to be fair.
Yes. And mind you, I didn't think I was going to win at all. I was like, maybe I'll get lucky and get in top 12.
Wow.
Because last year I hadn't even made it to top 12. So I was like, baby steps. Like, don't go into it expecting to win anything, because that's how you prepare yourself for competitions like this. If you think that you're going to go in and win, you're going to be devastated if you don't. And so I just remember all of these feelings setting in while I'm supposed to be enjoying it, and chapel just going and being like, it's okay. Everyone feels like this when they win.
Very overwhelmed.
Yes, because a lot of people see the crowning moment, but you don't see the moments after. And of course, I'd never been on that side, so I'd never seen that. And when she said that, when she explained to me that everyone feels scared going into something like this because they don't give you a guidebook. You're just Miss Kentucky now, because everyone's year is so different, and my year is completely different than Chapel's, and Chapel's is completely different than Mallory's and Hannah's and all those who came before them. So it was growth.
It's a ton. But I think it's cool to note that you are, we'll say, quote unquote, pageant girl, and you are so poised and put together. But it's a good reminder that you're 20 and you're still figuring things out just like everybody else is. Do you think there are misconceptions around pageant girls?
Yes. There's misconceptions that were like snobby and evil.
You are the least snobby, least evil person I think I've ever met, just from chatting with you for the last 30 minutes. You were like an angel. You're even dressed in white today. You're very sweet. Okay, so we can rule out that idea of pageant girls.
Thank you. I think that there is that misconception, again, just from all the media that's out there about pageants and the history of pageants and the misconceptions that go along with those histories. But I think that the one thing that I see most as a title holder is just this idea of perfection, that title holders have to be perfect all the time. And I'm very authentically myself, sometimes to the point where I'm like, am I not being pageanty enough? Because I'm at this weird point where I want to be very authentic and I want to open up about all of these struggles that come with being a title holder. And you kind of don't want to talk about those things because you know that this is someone's dream, and it's not as much of a dream if you make it into a reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love being Miss Kentucky. I wouldn't change this for the world. But there are things that you don't understand until you become a title holder. You're busy all the time. I've paid my friends to watch my dog. I've paid my friends to come over and do my laundry or clean my house. I've had so many times where I need help, and I'm not that perfect person who has everything together, and I am very transparent about that. When I go into schools, I tell the kids, I'm not perfect, and that's the beauty in something like this, is that you don't have to be perfect to take on an opportunity like this. You have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to be imperfect and to be able to tell people that you don't have it all together all the time. In the Kentucky Farm Bureau video, he shoots my backseat of my car. There's a whole bunch of like Starbucks cups back there. It's just a mess. I mean, there's a blanket for when I have like those few minutes to take a nap in between appearances.
Pageant queens, they're just like you.
They are. And I remember first seeing that and being like, why would they put that in there? And I was like, I'm glad that they put that in there.
It's kind of a humanizing moment.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sure that there is like a sense of honor in having it all together. But how many of us truly have it all together? We all have struggles. We all have problems. We all wake up some days and our hair is a mess, and maybe our makeup doesn't look the best that it could, and maybe we're a few minutes late to something that we probably should have been 15 minutes early for.
Me every day to this job. Sorry, LEX18. Literally.
But I think that's beautiful to say that, you don't have to have everything together to be a news reporter. You don't have to have everything together to be Miss Kentucky or to try to be Miss America. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there and know that you will make mistakes. Inevitably, you'll make 100. I actually spoke to a middle school class a few weeks ago in Harlem, Kentucky. And they were like, how do you look so perfect all the time? And I was like, let me tell you guys, I'm not perfect, and I fall on my face all the time. I still can't walk in heels very, very well. I was like, I embarrass myself all the time. They were like, what? How do you embarrass yourself? And I was like, I say the wrong things. I go on news interviews, and I mess up words. I stutter. At Miss America, my talent wasn't everything that I'd practiced. And that's one of the challenges of being a title holder, is that you have to understand that you're not always going to be perfect, and you have to be able to overcome those setbacks, because I don't love how my talent at Miss America went. Like, that's just the truth. And no matter how many times people tell me, it was great, it was great, I'm still, it wasn't my best. And I know that it wasn't my best. And at first, when I got back from Miss America, I was so disappointed. I was like, you ruined your one shot. Why would you do that? And then I was like, you're not perfect. Like, everyone has off days. Yes, it sucked that your off day was on national television.
Sure.
But everyone makes mistakes. And if you want to be a good role model for those people, then you have to just, suck it up, honestly, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
You didn't do your best, and all you can do now, like, yes, of course, I could have thought about that moment 1,000 times and just beat myself up over it. But I also could have just put it behind me and be like, that wasn't my best, but we can't have our best days every single day. And just trying to move past that and being very vulnerable and honest with the people that I speak to. I mentor a lot of youth in foster care, and I'm very honest about everything. When I talk to the local title holders, I will tell them, that wasn't my best, and sometimes you're going to have those days. And just being very transparent has changed everything for me, and it's really allowed me to be 100% myself in this title. And that in itself is really special to me, because I am able to say that, yes, I am Miss Kentucky, but at the end of the day, when I take the crown and the sash off, I'm the same Ariana with and without it.
I love that. And I would imagine it would be hard to lose yourself in a title like this. So to have those reminders that you are human and to give yourself grace, like, that is all, whether you are Miss Kentucky or anybody else, really good advice.
Thank you.
Okay. As we kind of round out the interview here, you placed 11th at Miss America, which is astounding. This is like fierce competition. And the photos of you are so killer. Like, you were slaying, girl. The talent, you got your workout fit. Like, I don't really know what was going on, but you looked amazing.
Thank you.
I want to know, do you have any beauty tips or tricks that you can share with our audience? Like, are we getting spray tans? Are we teasing the hair? Are there like secret pageant tricks that you guys have that nobody else knows about?
There are a lot of secret pageant tricks that nobody knows about, but I think that's the interesting thing, is that you have to do it to find out all those tricks. But I will say the best beauty tip that I have learned has nothing to do with concealer or makeup products or hair products.
Okay.
It's just to be very authentically yourself. If you like your natural hair, wear your natural hair. If you like a dress that no one else in your team likes, wear the dress that you like. Do the things that feel most authentic to you, because you could win. Yes, you could win, but you could also lose. And regardless of what happens, you want to walk away knowing that you put your best self out there, not the best self that anyone else told you to do, no one else's opinions. Just being authentically yourself will take you further than anything else, any beauty trick that I could ever give you.
I love that. And it's free.
It is.
Which is amazing. Ariana, as you are looking ahead to the next several months as Miss Kentucky, you have a ton going on. So just kind of give us the bullet points of what is on the horizon for you. What is this coming year going to look like?
Well, we talked a little bit about this on our way in, but I'm actually going on a trip at the end of this month. I get to go to Washington, D.C. to visit the Capitol. I get to see the first private orphanage in New York City. If any Hamilton fans are out.
Every time you say that, I have that line from Hamilton in my head.
Private orphanage in New York City. It is that one. It is. My little sister and I are the biggest Hamilton fans ever. So when we found out that we were going to be able to go to New York, we were like, we have to go there. And so we're going up the East Coast, Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, New York, and then we get to go visit Yale because I got into Yale's undergraduate program.
I'm sorry, what? So casual.
I didn't get to go because at the time I couldn't afford it, but I'm really hoping to get accepted into their master's program. It's been a dream of mine since I was little, so we're finally going to be able to go and visit and see what it would be like to be a student there.
That's amazing. Oh, I love it. Well, we are all rooting for you, and we, Kentucky, are so proud to have you as a representative for the Commonwealth. You carry yourself with poise and grace, and I love what you're doing for kids in foster care, amplifying their voices. It's really been so special to talk to you and just hear about your journey. I cannot wait to watch you through the next year. I'm like fangirling over here. It's going to be really, really cool.
Thank you.
Ariana Rodriguez, your Miss Kentucky. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening and watching Hot Mic. We'll see you next time.